Hey everyone, we're here at Gun Pro Shooting Supplies in Springfield, Oregon. This is pretty much my local gun shop. Most of the guns you've seen on my channel have come through these doors at one point or another. I'm here with Neil. He is the owner of this establishment, and today we're going to be talking about the Mantis X training system. Now, the reason I decided to do this video with Neil is because he has a very extensive background in competitive shooting. So can you give a brief synopsis of what your background is?
Sure can. I started shooting when I was 13 and competed in the '96 Olympic Games. Shot 2 different events, shot air pistol and free pistol.
Okay, so I know he would never call himself a subject matter expert, but I would when it comes to the fundamentals of shooting. As a competitive shooter, obviously he's spent a lot of time shooting, I would imagine. Probably many tens of thousands of rounds going down range. And again, the reason I wanted to have him in on this video is so he can give his experience with these Mantis training systems, with his level of experience. But before I have him do that, I want to kind of explain my exposure to these and my experience with these. So my first, I guess, exposure to these, even finding out they existed, was at SHOT Show this last January.
Yep, mine too.
Yeah, I went by their booth because I had set up an appointment with them. I wasn't really sure what to expect. I didn't really have high hopes. I'd never heard of them. I thought it might be something a little bit overrated. When I showed up for the appointment to get a look at these things and do a video with them, I had the guy give me a brief run over of, okay, what is this thing? What can it do? You know, what makes it different from everything else? And he starts running through what it can do and how it works. And my jaw just gets closer and closer to the floor, and I'm thinking, how have I never heard of this? This is an amazing thing. And so I went ahead, I did the video with him, and I thought I have to have one of these. I have to get my hands on one. So they sent me out one to test. It's been probably 6 or 7 months now that I've actually had my hands on one of these and been using one. And shortly after getting back from SHOT Show, I started talking to you, and we both were talking about the thing we were most impressed by, and I think both of us, this was the thing for us. So
that was the number one for me too. As a matter of fact, I was so happy with it that I actually bought them right there on the spot and had them ship them to me.
Right.
Because I knew that once I had some in here and was able to demo them, we would sell them, and I could easily show people the effects that it would have with their trigger control and their shooting abilities.
Right, and showing the ease of showing people how to use it will kind of play into the ease of use of this in general, which we'll get to in a second. But so again, I've been using this thing for about 6 or 7 months now, and I have noticed, I would say I'm at an intermediate level of shooting. I would think of myself as a fairly competent shooter, and I definitely noticed a significant increase in my accuracy because of the fundamentals that you get with this thing. Really, it's focusing on trigger control, but I significantly improved the tightness of my groups while using this thing. What about yourself? As someone at a much higher level, have you noticed any difference in your shooting ability at all?
I have. You know, I am used to, when I was training for the Olympics, shooting 5-6 days a week, 40+ hours a week. I don't get to do that anymore.
Right.
So when I do find something like this that helps me with my trigger control, I have noticed, especially when I shoot 50 yards slow fire, that my trigger control is much, much better than it would have been had I not been able to at least dry fire 20, 30 shots with one of these to take away from my range time. I'm shooting 98s and 99s consistently in my slow fire at 50 yards, and in the past I couldn't have expected that really without a lot more training.
Sure. And you know, he carries these in the store here, so have you had other customers come in and say that they've seen improvements in their own shooting as well?
We have anywhere from pretty much beginner shooters that want to learn better trigger control, a little bit better, to more advanced and refining those techniques. Okay,
so it seems like at pretty much whatever skill level you're at, you can definitely see an improvement with using this product. So I kind of want to talk about how this thing works and how I think this thing fits a niche that I don't think was really filled before. Before we started filming, I was talking to Neil about some of the other training systems I've used in the past that involve lasers and special targets and webcams and laptops. And you get to where it's almost prohibitively expensive to get into one of those training systems, and you run into a lot of limitations with those training systems where it has to be dry fire, or it has to be a gun shooting a laser, or it has to be X, Y, and Z. This thing is extremely versatile. You can use it dry fire, you can use it with airsoft or any gas operated gun, or you can use it with an actual live shooting
Live
firearm.
fire, correct.
So, you know, for you not being able to get to the range as often as you were when you were actively competing and, you know, doing the Olympics and everything else, if you're only at home and you don't have time to get to the range, you can throw this on your gun, find a place to point at on your wall, assuming, you know, if it's a safe backdrop and all that, because we still want to abide by the safety rules.
Yes, we do.
As long as you have a safe place to point your gun, you can get all those trigger presses in, and it'll tell you exactly what you're doing. So for that, I'm going to cut to a video I did a couple months ago at the range with my buddy Christians to kind of show how it works with both dry fire, airsoft, and live fire, and kind of show what kind of things it'll demonstrate. So I'll go ahead and cut to that right now. Okay, so at this point, we got Christian set up with his SIG P226 Mark 25. You have to pay more for it that way, so you have to make sure you call it that way. And what I'm going to do, we already have it calibrated, and I'll show kind of some of that in the B-roll. Really, really simple process. Basically, all you need to be able to use this is any sort of smart device with Bluetooth. So your iPhone, iPad, basically any tablet or smartphone, and you can get this thing to work. I'm going to go into the settings and basically set it for, I don't know how well you'll be able to see this on camera. I'm going to set it for dry fire. Christian is right-handed. I'm not going to change the current firearm, but you can see I was using this on my AREX Rex 01. But for all intents and purposes, that doesn't really matter right now. I have it mounted forwards on the bottom of the gun, so basically everything else is good. I just wanted to set it to let it know to be sensing for dry fire. So right now, you may be able to tell that we have no target downrange at all whatsoever. With this training device, you don't need any special lasers or targets or anything crazy like that, which again sets it above even more of those other possible training devices out there. So what I'm going to do is, I got it on the start screen here. I'm going to hit the start button. I'm basically going to have Christian just aim out, find something to aim at, some consistent point of aim, and have him do a nice, steady trigger pull. All right, so as we can see, that was a 95.3. That's pretty darn good. Was that double action also?
Double action.
Double action. So a 95.3 score with a double action gun. So what I want you to do is go ahead and just jerk the trigger for me so we can see that. Okay, so now what you can see here is because of the jerking of the trigger, we can see that the movement was down and to the left, and we have a lower score, obviously. Obviously, the higher the score, the more steady the gun is as you're pulling that trigger. The lower the score, the more it's going to move. But we don't have to just leave it at the number. We can actually see exactly what path that device took as he was pulling that trigger. So this gives you a lot of information. But let's go ahead and just have you aim back out and take another nice slow trigger pulls for us. Okay, I think we have a show off here because those are some really good scores. So what we can do is we can stop it, and then that'll give us what our average was. And considering he did a pulled shot intentionally, and 89.9 is a pretty dang good average between 5 shots. So we've demonstrated it works dry fire with no target, which is excellent. So let's try it with an airsoft gun. All right, so now we have Christian set up with my airsoft ripoff of basically a Glock 19. As you can see, we've got the nice orange tip on there. But now I'm just going to set it to the airsoft setting, which is this little CO2 guy right there. Basically going to leave everything else the same. And we are going to have Christian aim out, again, at no target downrange, if you can see that. And go ahead and pull that trigger nice and steady for us. Minor details. That's my fault. Okay, 64.3. Got to breaking the wrist up. Go ahead and try that one more time. There we go. 96.1. One more. 96.2. So I appreciate Christian intentionally breaking that wrist up for us on that first one, because that's going to take me into one of the other things about this, if we can. So go ahead and do another intentional jerking for us. That came out worse than I intended it to. Okay, so as we can see down here at the bottom of the screen, hopefully if it'll focus on that, it says possible causes for the lower score there, breaking the wrist down and pushing forward. So the nice thing is it doesn't just tell you the possible causes of those lower scores. If you tap on one of those, it'll actually run you through what that actually means and what you're doing, what you're physically doing, and what to do to prevent that from happening in the future. So it doesn't just give you a score, it tells you what you could be doing wrong, which may or may not be the case, but then only that, it tells you what to actually do to alleviate that from happening in the future. So we've done it on dry fire and we've done it airsoft. Let's put it on a real, probably on the SIG 226 again, do some live fire just so you can see that as well. So now we have Christian set up with a Canik TP9 SF Elite. We just want to get a good cross section of guns here so we're not just using the same thing to show its versatility. Again, I'm going to go into the settings, pick the live fire setting, and go right back and hit start. So Christian, if you want to go ahead and pick something to aim at and do a nice slow steady squeeze. 94.9, 90.9. If you could, go ahead and just jerk your trigger a little bit. There we go. Do another jerk. And one more if you could. All right. So what you may be able to notice down here, you kind of see like the stair step of those red lines. Each time you get another step, that tells you you're putting another shot in that direction. And then the length of the line tells you the severity of that action. So again, you have that really great way of looking back through. And again, you can look at the actual trail of the gun as it's moving from location to location to give you a good idea of what was actually physically happening. So it works dry fire, works airsoft, works live fire. Pretty much any possibility, any combination with no special targets or lasers or cameras or anything like that necessary, which makes this thing exceptionally accessible for people. So now that we're back here at the shop, one of the nice things again about being able to use a dry fire is Neil's been able to have it set up, had basically a demo version set up in the shop for customers to come in, try it out themselves, and kind of get a feel for it before they actually decide to buy one, which you do carry them here.
Absolutely.
Buy them.
Absolutely.
And they're really easy to throw on. You know, you got one screw, and as long as you have a rail section on the bottom of your gun, and it'll work on long guns too, rifles, shotguns, but as long as you got rail section, you can put it on there. And even if you don't have a rail section, they are making base plate adapters for common guns like Glocks, Smith & Wesson, like that one there. Ones like for 1911s, the single stack 9mm that don't have rails. Yeah, so while I was talking about that, he got it on. All you got to do is turn it on, and it's ready to go. It has a little micro USB to charge it and to do the updates for it. And then it just connects via Bluetooth to your phone. Or really any other smart device, and you're really ready to go. Honestly, I don't think its simplicity can be understated, and I think its usefulness should not be understated either. Now they're not uber cheap, but again, for other similar training systems, it is at the very low end of cost there. And you know, you can give your opinion on this, but in my opinion, it's better to buy this and get practice time on the Mantis trainer than to buy the same amount of ammo for that price and just go to the range and blow it off, not really learning anything.
Yeah, you're going to get much more positive feedback with this for that same amount of...
The return on investment is enormous. I mean, like I said, I've been using it for 6 or 7 months. If I had spent that money on just buying ammo, I would have blown through that probably in a day and wouldn't have gotten a lot out of it, just because the feedback it gives you is so useful, and it's really hard to self-perceive. If people are pulling the trigger, they don't realize they're jerking the trigger and pulling it low left. They don't know that they're, breaking their grip, or they don't know what they're doing. And while this thing isn't always 100% accurate, it'll get you headed in the right direction and at least get you working towards improving those group sizes.
Agreed. And again, the simplicity, from the time you open the box, I have told many customers, 5 minutes you could be shooting your first shot on the Mantis.
Yep.
It's great.
Yeah, and it comes with everything you need. It actually comes in a really nice little Pelican case too, Pelican hard case with foam. I mean, it's
safe.
You're getting what you're paying for sure. And again, the usefulness cannot be understated. Now, there have been a couple limitations that I've noticed with it, but I really think that's to be expected with just what it is. And really, the only limitation I found is if you're tracking a moving target or you are moving while shooting, it will not accurately depict what your trigger pull is, because it'll interpret your horizontal movement of you moving or your gun moving while tracking a target as movement in the trigger. But that's it. If you're a stationary shooter shooting at a stationary target, you're good to go in my experience.
Or even if you are a moving shooter but you want to develop your fundamentals, standing and developing your fundamentals will pay off down the road as well.
Right. Yeah, because I don't care how much money you spend on a gun or a new trigger or whatever new whiz-bang thing is on the market. If you can't pull the trigger properly, all of it is completely meaningless. And that's really what this focuses on, and that's really what it does best, is improving that.
Agreed.
So I think it's pretty clear if you've been watching the video up to this point. We both recommend it. It's, again, I think its usefulness cannot be understated, no matter what level of shooting you're at. Again, whether you're a new shooter, you're kind of at an intermediate level, or you're at a more advanced level like Neil, it's a really great thing to test out. Now, for those of you living in the Springfield, Eugene area, can people come in and try one out and see what they think about it?
Absolutely. We have it set up almost the whole time that we're open. I've got it right now currently on a Smith & Wesson 5-inch Performance Center gun, so the trigger on it is pretty good, but we can set it up pretty much on any gun that we have in here. You can try it out. I currently now have over 5,000 rounds dry fired through it and still going strong.
Yeah, and that's one thing with all the live fire I've been doing, the dry fire, I've had zero durability issues that I've seen. One really cool thing too that I should mention is if you have a light bearing holster, it may, not guaranteeing, but it may actually fit in that holster. The holster I have for my Glock 19 with an APL, it'll actually fit with that on, so I can even do full-on draw strokes and everything else and see my approach to target and all that, so that's kind of cool, just a side note. So if you do live in the Eugene-Springfield area here in Oregon, I would highly recommend you come in, get some time in on one, see what you think, and then you do carry them here in the store if people want to buy them, correct?
Absolutely. And we can also mail order them. Call me, we can get them mailed to you as well.
Sure, so don't feel limited if you don't live in the immediate area. Neil can definitely help you out. And that's one thing I want to mention too. Currently, the way the firearms market is, people are referring to it as the Trump slump, where because something unexpected happened last November, at least unexpected to some people, the firearms market has kind of slowed down. And all over the country, companies are laying off people. A lot of mom and pop gun stores are closing down because they're not getting the revenue they were getting before. So with that, if you have a local gun store like I have here with GunPro, I highly recommend coming into a place like that and making your purchases instead of going to some online big box store or even just in brick and mortar big box store. Again, to me, I feel better knowing that I'm helping out local people. That money's going to a good place. You got a kid in the same high school that I went to, so there's a sense of kinship there, at least in some respects. So if you live in the Eugene Springfield area, I would personally recommend that you come here to buy one of these if you're going to. If you're not, you can either order them over the phone or by email, or find whatever else is going to work for you as well. That's my little plea. Do with that what you will. Is there anything else you wanted to say about these things?
Right out at the moment, no. Like I said, they have been a great tool for me. I've really enjoyed using it, and anything that I've seen on the market, I can't really say that they are any better, especially for the price that they are offering these.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't agree more. Again, you don't need a special target. You don't need a gun that just shoots a laser. You can do a dry fire, airsoft, or live fire. You can use it on a handgun, a shotgun, a rifle. The options are pretty much limitless, and again, the only issue I've found is moving and shooting, but that's not really when you're probably going to be practicing the fundamentals of trigger pull anyway.
Correct.
So again, come to Gun Pro if you haven't already. With the prices this guy has stuff at, I don't know how he stays in business, so you're definitely going to find reasonable prices here. If he doesn't have something, you've ordered in things for me before, so
Yep.
it's definitely something he's willing to do. And you're usually pretty good about getting some brand new stuff in, like in the first shipment, like with the new Gen 5 Glocks that just shipped out. You
Yep.
had those before some of the big box stores here in
we
town.
did.
So
Yes, we did.
you know, definitely don't feel like you're limiting yourself by coming to your local gun store like this one. But anyway, with all that said, as always, I hope you're able to get something out of this video, and I really appreciate you watching.
You showed
I probably do, but
how
it's
easy
worth
it is.
It was so. Honestly, what happened was, I did the full video with my friend Christian, and when I was going to edit it, I like this thing so much that I couldn't stop saying like how amazing it is and how perfect it is. And I thought, even though it's genuine, 100% genuine,
Right.
it seems over the top. So I should probably do this again and be a
Gotcha.
little bit more metered.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Look like you're not being paid by
Well, yeah,
Mantis in
that's
an
the thing.
infomercial.
It's just it's one of those things where it's so good, it's hard to not sound like you're being paid for your video.
Right.
But I mean, honestly, I've looked around at reviews and I can't find anyone who said really anything substantively negative about it.